Hello, everyone. This is Jade Inspiration Masters. We are a communication leadership training institute based in the United States. We conduct the programs for corporate in terms of public speaking, communication, leadership, and also we have amazing youth programs run throughout the nation, available in all the 50 states and Canada. That is on public speaking, leadership, and online presentation skills. And also, if you are in Dallas, Fort Worth area, we have 10 physical locations in the DFW area. Again, this is Jay. As a part of our inspiring series, we get this great opportunity to meet the difference makers, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the people who are making a difference, not just in the United States, but around the world. And today I have an amazing difference maker here with me. Let's find out who our difference maker today is. Hello, everyone. This is Jade Inspiration Masters. And today my guest is Gauthami Vemula-Queijo. And I will go ahead with the introduction for you. Gauthami, welcome to Inspiration Masters.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time, and it's a pleasure to have you here at Inspiration Masters. I will let you all know something about Gauthami. Gauthami is a social entrepreneur, activist, and community leader. She's a founder of Color Me Safe LLC. It's a family crisis management consultancy where she provides a voice to underrepresented families, especially immigrants going through the CPS, the Child Protective Services system. She holds her master's in both psychology and counseling. She's currently pursuing her child protection course at the Harvard University, and she has received numerous awards, recognitions from prestigious organizations. We are going to be talking to her about it. And that is a long introduction I have for her. It might go on for an hour, but we are going to be keep it short. I want you to hear directly from Gauthami. Again, she is the author of a children's book. She has her podcast, a video series. She teaches piano. She also learns singing from opera singer, volunteer for local food bank, soup kitchen, working with the homeless, so most of the things you dream of, right? I need to do this. She has done all of those things. So I'm glad that we are going to we'll find out more. And what happens when you do all these things? Normally, you get the boards of these organizations, you get awards, you get recognized. So all of those things we are going to hear, whether it's INT, Mora, Dallas Business Journal. And Gauthami believes in Gandhi's beautiful words: be the change you wish to see in the world. So again, welcome, Gauthami. We are going to be finding out a whole lot. And I kept your introduction short on purpose because I don't want to hear it straight from you, and all
Sorry
of us
to
want to
bore
hear it
you.
straight from you. So the first thing, you have done some exceptional work and very inspiring journey you had. What got you started on this beautiful journey? And are making a difference in so many people's lives in so many ways. So let's find out, how did you get started?
Sure. So, when I was in college, I was going to do the typical thing that all Indian parents want their children to do: go to
Mhm.
medical school. And unfortunately, at that time, my life took a very different turn. I started off as pre-med, and I wanted to be like some of my American friends and wished that I had a boyfriend. And unfortunately, that took me down into a different hole. I got involved with someone who was a very, very violent person. And that relationship lasted for a year and a half, to the point where I almost became best friends with death. And, luckily, due to God and my parents and the support that I had, I was able to pull myself back up. And I ended up not going to medical school. I ended up taking a different turn. My inspiration with violence inspired me to work with other people, who had to face the same form of adversity. So I ended up pursuing my graduate course in clinical psychology and counseling.
Right. So, I mean, there are things which sometimes don't go per plan and we take turns. But I
Right,
think the main part for all of us to learn is what we do with it,
exactly.
right? Things, as one of my mentor, Mr. Jim Rohn, he says that I learned so many things from Jim Rohn. And he says, it's not what happens, but it's what you do with what happens.
Right.
That makes all the difference. And I think you got your pathway from there. So tell us something about your early days in schooling. And of course, you mentioned that you have a background with parents from India.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes, yeah.
I was born in India, came to this country at a very young age, and we came in the 70s and,
Uh-huh.
raised in the 80s. And so we moved after moving from India, we lived in New
Hmm.
York for a little bit where my father did his residency and fellowship. And then we moved to a very small rural town of less than 35,000 population in Hobbs, New Mexico, which is in the
Uh-huh.
southeast corner. It was a very small town, and I think we were one of the 15 Indian families there. So, I mean, talk about a culture shock in all
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
here. So, for me, what the struggle was to find that balance between being Indian and then being American, and then, trying to balance all of that out in a very, very small town. So,
Yeah. And you always have a challenge, right, with the parents. You have to be A grade.
it was all about academia. It was all about that. There, yes, we were allowed to have fun, but even during the summers, my mom, it still cracks me up today. So May's there, right? And before heading out for the summer, my mom would talk to our math teachers and science teachers, say, "Hey,
Uh,
can we borrow the books for next year so we can sit
wow.
down that summer and learn, math problems and this and
Yeah.
that." So it was in the mornings, we would spend our time,
Uh-huh.
learning, reading encyclopedia pages, and then we would
Wonderful.
go out and play. I hate math. I still despise math. I would have to work on these ridiculous word problems. If this plane left at this time and this plane left at this time, I'm like, Mom, what does it matter? As long as it doesn't crash, I don't care.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that's the way to go, right? Because your focus is ahead, right? You have to be ahead, 1 year ahead, because you want to get everything ready in
Right.
summer before you go back to school.
It came
That's
from a
interesting.
beautiful place, but though it was annoying for us having to spend our summers still learning.
No, I think that gets you ready to deal with any kind of situation way ahead of time. It gets you more prepared.
Sure.
Um, so let's find out more about. I think you spend a whole lot of time with the CPS, right? You
Yes.
spend out the whole, and you also. Let's go before that. I want to find out more about your college. I think you did the major, the psychology, and um, right in two different fields. You did your.
I did. So my bachelor's was in biology and
Uh-huh,
psychology. So
uh-huh,
because I was on the pre-med route, pre-med track. And then after, graduating with my bachelor's, when I went into graduate school, I chose clinical psychology and
uh-huh,
counseling. And after I graduated, I was actually a practicing therapist.
uh-huh.
And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to fix adults. So I
Uh-huh.
stopped. No, I'm totally kidding, but it was not the right track for me.
Uh-huh.
And then that summer, my parents told me we're moving to Dallas, Texas. So
Uh-huh.
we moved here a little bit before 9/11 had
Uh-huh.
occurred.
Uh-huh.
And I was looking for a job during that time, and Child Protective Services was
Uh-huh.
actually looking for investigators. And initially, I didn't apply because I thought it was only for social workers, but
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, I need a job, so let me apply. And they hired me within a span of 24 hours.
Uh-huh.
So I started that year at CPS as a sexual abuse investigator,
Mhm.
and where we strictly investigated sexual abuse cases and molestation and assault and things
Uh-huh.
like that. And before we go out into the field, we are in a 6-week academy. And it's a lot of book learning, a lot of
Uh-huh.
policies and learning and understanding procedures. But let me tell you something, there is nothing that can prepare you for what you see when you work at Child Protective Services.
Right.
I was raised, to trusting to a fault that
Uh-huh.
everybody's fine, nothing bad can happen. It's
Mhm.
when I joined Child Protective Services, it's like those filters were
No,
taken off.
that is so true because even if you tell me I've been working so long in the pharmaceutical field and right with people for the last
Mhm.
20 years, it's still what what your experience, what you tell about, it's going to be completely new because I would never have heard of it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, living in a certain kind of families, and I have an Indian background, there is nothing you can even think of that it could go wrong. It's just everything smooth sailing because my parents been married for over 50 years. So, I mean, you here what we hear is coming from dysfunctional family. Now these are fully functional families, right?
Right.
You can't beat that. I mean, before my dad passed away, they were together for 50 years.
Mhm.
So imagine that. So I mean, what you come across is absolutely something different. Yeah, so we are definitely, I want to find out more about what what kind of things that would have happened and what would be alarming things. And of course, a lot of our viewers have the same kind of background, as well as they have been through the families,
Mhm.
which they have absolutely not come across anything like this
Right.
before. So it would be really good to know that how to deal with it, or how
Mhm.
even to start. I mean, rather than dealing, how even to start if something of that, even if you get a call from CPS or whatever, what to do with that.
Sure.
So for all of us, Gautami has her organization called Color Me Safe LLC, and this is mainly taking care of. It's a crisis management consultancy. So we're going to be finding out more about it. Tell us more about Color Me Safe LLC and how does it work?
Sure. So let me give you a brief history before I actually go into Color Me Safe. So my 11 years at Child Protective Services, I saw they're based on sound principles. However, they've had their share of pitfalls and
Mhm.
shortcomings. And while I was an investigator there, I would get numerous phone calls, Jay, from the Indian
Uh-huh.
communities, especially
Uh-huh.
the South Asian community. And I found myself in the evenings, advising them and just helping them navigate through the CPS system for hours and hours. And luckily, I was able to do that because they were out of my jurisdiction. So
Uh-huh.
fast forward, I was a part of a very integral department of Child Protective Services. I was a quality and training manager where I trained new
Uh-huh.
investigators to go out in the field and assess abuse and neglect. And
Uh-huh.
at that point, they wanted to dissolve that department, which I was part of. So they gave us an option. You can take a demotion or you leave
Mhm.
the agency. And I thought to myself, you know what? I gave you 11 years, almost a little bit more than a decade of my life. I'm going to leave. But then this light bulb had gone off, and I said, what if I started up a small consulting firm
Uh-huh.
specializing in providing guidance and solutions in child welfare issues,
Right.
helping families just navigate and understand how to deal with child protective services. I wanted to
Mhm.
fill a void in the community. And honestly, my goal wasn't to bash child protective services because
Mhm.
that was, the beginning of my career.
Oh, that, and that's very essential service, though. It's very,
Mhm.
very essential
It
service. Yeah.
it
Mhm.
is. And it was really to build a bridge between a broken system and the families that we serve here in
Right.
North
Mhm.
Dallas. I wanted to be the voice for those that didn't have one and empower them with that knowledge to use their voice and better understand the system.
Right. And that's a very important part, because most of the people would not know how these things work.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea how it works.
Right.
So that's how it is. You know that it's Child Protective Services. That's what the name says.
Yes.
But how actually it works? How does it protect the child? What is the core thinking behind it?
Right.
And how is it executed? We don't know about that
No.
part.
No.
So we do want to know more about that part too. So again, the the organization which you, so people come to you if they have a question,
Sure.
and then you guide them through the process.
Right.
That's, is that how it works, or tell us
So,
something more?
so let me give you a little bit of background. We work with families. We work with nonprofit organizations such as domestic violence organizations where there's women and children involved. We work with family law and immigration attorneys, and we work with schools such as daycares. So we can come in to the beginning of a CPS investigation or the end of the CPS investigation.
Uh-huh.
The children are actually taken out of the parents' custody and placed in care, custody, and control over the state. So they retain us, and we can mitigate some of this stuff at a lower
Uh-huh.
level versus hiring an attorney where you're paying
Right.
buku of money to them.
Right.
So we're there from the very beginning to the very end. What questions to ask? How do
Uh-huh.
you answer this? What kind of solutions will best suit your family? CPS investigates abuse and neglect. And
Uh-huh.
there's sometimes a fine line between what is abuse and
Uh-huh.
some fine line between what is discipline.
Right.
Youth versus poverty. There is a difference. So
The difference, yeah.
see is abuse. And sometimes, for example, we have a lot of immigrant families from India that we've worked with.
Uh-huh.
I think what the last 20 to 25 years, there's been an influx of South Asian families coming in to
Right.
America. And a lot of them just don't understand that certain discipline practices in
Uh-huh.
India are frowned upon here in the
Right.
United States. So
Exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh.
with guidance, you can change that
Right.
behavior around.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I think that's right. So I was in school, so I know that how it works.
sure,
Spanking, which is considered normal, it's not absolutely allowed. It goes on to completely on a different picture,
right.
and people need to know about it. So I think that's an interesting service and a very, very essential service which you are providing
Thank
because
you.
people do need that part. What is the missing link is not known and it's not written, and you can't hire a lawyer to learn that. You have
Right.
to go to the consultancy to do that. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good bridge you are providing the service, and I have not known about this one, and I do know people who would need it. So that's very, very nice of you to you have something like that available where people can go in without any intimidation. They can just walk in and find out more. So I think that's really amazing. Go on to the lighter side. Let's find out more things about you. So I'm going to go find out more about Gauthami because she does a whole lot of things. And one of the things which I see here is the vitishcomplexion.com. I think that's your satirical blog. Tell us something about it because it's something you're making fun of things, and let's find out more about that, the fun
Sure.
side.
So Wheatish Complexion, it's a satiric blog about a, first generation Indian American woman just having to navigate through the ins and outs of daily life from, fighting stereotypes to,
Uh-huh.
dealing with your parents to being set up on, crazy dates by your parents because they want to get you married. The whole Wheatish came from, so my parents put me on shadi.com.
Uh-huh.
Which I gave the nickname of shady.com. So
Shady and Shadi. I mean, it's just very close by.
yeah. So in one of the drop boxes, and this is so sad that you have the category of fair, medium skin, wheatish, and I'm wheatish. Where does that come from? And I asked around, and people were telling me, yeah, your skin is wheatish. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Colorism is so prevalent within our culture. So I thought I would just make fun of the entire thing. So I came up with this blog called Wheatish Complexion. So it
Uh-huh.
started off with, all my crazy, crazy dating story.
Uh-huh.
So he's talking about real important issues from colorism, to sexuality, to
Uh-huh.
just a number of other things. And I actually opened up the blog for guest
Uh-huh.
writers to come and share their views
Right.
and viewpoints.
I like
So
that shady.com.
shady.
So shady.com. That's interesting. So I mean, these are the things which are important messages, but when you come out with having fun with that, that's really how it sticks. And
Right.
I think you have another one, similar one, which is called the Chick Chat Podcast. Tell us
That's so
something about it.
So Chick Chat was born in the time of COVID. This is
Uh-huh.
idea that came to my mind, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I thought it would always be fun to kind of do a podcast because that's the trend on the street right now.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I ended up pitching this idea to two of my close friends, and we're all of different ages. And I'm like, it's just going to be a nonsense sort of podcast. We'll talk about important issues, such as politics, we can be talking about lipstick. It's a little bit of nonsense, but also a lot of important things.
Right.
And we decided to come together and we launched at the end of last year.
Uh-huh. Awesome. So again, that's the Chick Chat podcast.
Yes.
It's a nonsense podcast. That's what Gauthami says. So I'm gonna go listen to it. What is it? What is the nonsense all about? Because yeah, we like life has to be a lighter side, and the nonsense is a part of our life. I mean,
And
we get
this
to a whole lot of things.
exactly. And this podcast has really given us that platform to be ourselves, be the authentic selves, but different perspectives, but with a lot of sass.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's a amazing thing to the way you look at things, right? If you listen to Malcolm Gladwell, it's not something new, but it's how you look at things in a different way,
Right.
different perspective, and that can change the whole thing. and it can open you to more ideas which are more acceptable, or maybe the more acceptable ways of telling your stories. I guess
Right.
with the podcast, that's an opportunity to do it. So that's great. Uh,
Exactly.
one more thing I want to talk about is for the kids,
Uh-huh.
and your book, which is called Ganesha Goes to First Grade.
Yes.
So that's an intriguing title. Ganesha Goes to First Grade.
Right.
So let's find out more. What's happening to Ganesha here?
So I volunteered teaching Balvihar Sunday
Okay.
school at the
Uh-huh.
Chinmaya mission for several years.
Uh-huh.
And, with the blessings of Swamiji and parents and
Mhm.
teachers there, I came up with this concept for children to relate to. And
Mhm.
everybody just loves Ganesha. He's just
Uh-huh.
so cute. He's full of wisdom and full of knowledge. And I wanted to take Ganesha and use his principles and his wisdom to relate to topics that young kids go through,
Uh-huh.
and I used him as, to teach a lesson to children about simple things, about sharing is caring, about not taking things that are not yours. So it was really to teach a moral and a lesson. So,
I like that. I mean, you Ganesha, that trunk goes in and snatches somebody's lunchbox.
there's
I
such a
don't know.
beautiful symbolism to, Sri Ganesha, and I wanted to use that so children can relate to the things that they go through, and Ganesha becomes their friend,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he removes obstacles from their little lives at that young
Oh,
age.
that's right. That's one of the story for the adult, that Ganesha is somebody who removes the obstacles from.
Right.
So he's brought in as the start of these ceremonies
Exactly.
to remove the obstacles. Yeah,
Remove the
that's
obstacles.
that's great thinking, and that's first grade. So you start with Ganesha. That
Yes.
was great.
That's with Ganesha.
Why not? Why not Ganesha, right?
Why not?
If somebody has to go to school, he'll be the first one, because if you're start of everything, why don't you start of my school, right?
And this was a beautiful project. We got the Balvihar students to also participate in it. We have
Uh-huh.
music. We actually animate our voices. So there's a
Wow.
CD attached to the book with music and sing along and
Uh-huh.
all of that. It was a wonderful, wonderful, inspiring project to work on that year.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll have to look to that.
I
That's
have to
very,
send
very
you a book.
interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also, I think you didn't want to mention, but I'm going to mention anyway.
Oh,
uh, let's see. This awards, what's going on with that? The INT, Indian Association of North Texas, I think most of the people know, who this organization is more than 50 years old, and one of the most prominent here. And Woman of the Year award you received in 20. Oh, let me see.
21. Just a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
We
wow.
celebrated
Congratulations.
History Month. Thank you so
Congratulations. So again, it's the
much.
IANT's Indian Association of North Texas Woman of the Year Award.
Right.
That's awesome. Along with that, you have received several ones. One is coming from you were one of the three finalists in the Women of the Year Award for the Greater Dallas Asian American Chamber of Commerce, and also the 2020 UN Day Global Leadership Award. And
Right.
there are several here, which I'm not going to go through.
Oh,
I was asked not to read any of those, but I'm sorry, I read at least one. I can't miss that opportunity to
you,
congratulate you on there. And also, there are a list of organizations you are involved with, where you are either sitting on the board or they are making a difference. Tell us something about maybe one or two of them, where you're really passionate about something which you do, or your activities over at that organization.
honestly, it's a little bit of everything I'm passionate about.
Mhm.
I may not speak about all the issues and, promote it on social media, but wherever I feel like there needs to be some form of change, and if
Mhm.
there's something that I can do in my little world that can promote change, then I do it. If it's not about filling a board seat, it's about you being that vehicle, you being that catalyst
Mhm.
to carry on that
Right.
mission, to make a change that you want to see. You're talking about the awards and stuff, and honestly, Jay, yes, those are accolades.
Mhm.
I'm grateful and I'm humbled by those blessings. However,
Mhm.
there still needs to be lots of work done. Those are
Right.
temporary. Those are
No, no.
temporary. And again, I'm grateful to them. But again, there's so much work to do in this world and
That
we
is
need
right. So yeah,
to.
none of us we do anything for the awards, but at the end of the day, it's a good recognition which tells people that whatever you're doing is valuable, and that's the reason the awards are there. Also, there the anything else you want to share with in terms of organization, because you are involved with the food bank and soup kitchens and the other things, and I know these are very, very satisfying things when you do those.
We are.
You share something of those, and also I want to find out more from your CPS work, because that's also your main work here.
It
So
is.
anything which happened, which you would like to share for people for the benefit,
Mhm.
because most of the people, as I mentioned, are unaware.
Yes.
And when we had to talk to some families around, when we heard about these things, totally unaware of that, I couldn't
Mhm.
help or guide or anything like that. So tell us something, what need to be kept in mind, or very generic terms, what is it that you would say that we need to know?
So Child Protective Services investigates abuse and neglect. Okay.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, there is a fine line between what abuse is and what
Uh-huh.
discipline is. And I think what, as our community needs to be aware of, we, first of all, we have to accept that child abuse is an issue. It's a rising issue in our
Hmm.
community. We need to understand that things are happening, from sexual abuse to bullying, things like that, and we need to bring those issues to the
Hmm.
forefront. So
Right.
if I was a child and my parents, put me in my room, yelled at me and grounded me and even spanked me, I
Hmm.
can go say something to my teacher,
Hmm.
correct?
Right.
And guess what? That teacher is obligated as a state reporter to make
Hmm.
that call and say, hey, I suspect there's something going on. I have a feeling that this child may not be safe in this home because of
Hmm.
A, B, and C. So what
Uh-huh.
happens next? The teacher can go and call the 800 number or make a
Uh-huh.
referral saying that I suspect abuse. And then boom, 24 to 72 hours later, you have CPS at your front door.
Uh-huh.
And it could have been just a misunderstanding, but to
That's
Child
right.
Protective Services, this is a child. This child could be in danger. So
Hmm.
therefore, we have to go and investigate this case.
Wow, that's something, because
Sure.
sometimes the parents of young children might not be aware,
Right.
and they might say something, and the kids might not just like it. They might not have
Exactly.
they might not have suffered anything, but they
Right.
might present it something which might be
Right.
misleading, and they get into trouble.
Exactly. And another example, a few years ago, so a little going back, so
Uh-huh.
when I used to go to India and visit my grandparents, if I'd get
Uh-huh.
in trouble and everything, my grandparents would say, you have to behave, otherwise I'm going to put you in the shed.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The car shed, the garage. Okay. And
Right.
they never did it. It was more of a threat. So
Right.
a few years ago, very something similar happened to this young 7-year old.
Uh-huh.
So she did something, she threw something and it hit somebody else. And then mom and dad had said, you know what, if you continue to behave this way, I'm going to put you in the shed. She didn't listen, so they put her in the garage. They put the lights on, they kept the door open and basically put her in the corner. It was a form of discipline. It was
Right.
time. Guess what? Monday morning came, she went to school. She told her school counselor. School
Uh,
counselor called Child Protective Services. They were out like 24 hours. Oh my gosh, this child is being locked in the garage. So again, what I said earlier, there's a
yeah.
fine line between abuse and
Right.
neglect.
I think, especially with the people who are migrating new,
Mhm.
this might be something you need to know of.
Absolutely.
That some of the very, very common things, or very innocent things, but the impact of that, when it goes to the third party,
Mhm.
it's amplified to what they cannot believe in. So they can
Exactly.
say, "What happened?" kind of thing. And while the abuse is, I mean, there's been zero abuse, but in this case, as you talked about, but it could be leading to something, the consequences for the family. That's good to know. And I think that's where you serve, which is really, really very nice, that at least people get to know all these things before they go into some deep waters or anything like that.
And
That's very interesting.
you also have situations where you actually go out and investigate the case, and there is,
Yeah,
there
and that
are
could be.
substantial
Yeah,
indicators of abuse and neglect too, and that we have to understand.
That
as
is
well.
right. Yeah, that's right. Because that does exist, and that's the reason this agency exists. And most of the time, that's the case.
Yes,
What we're talking about is probably the other side of it. But then, actually, it does happen, and it's very serious in nature.
yes.
So that has to be taken care of. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, Gautami, what is your message? I think you work with women, and also you work with young children, especially young girls. What's your message for them?
Oh my gosh, I could say so much. My message to young girls, teenagers, whatever, is, you have these dreams, right? Don't just believe your dreams, become your dreams,
Yes.
follow your passion and make sure your passion has a heartbeat to it. So,
Yes.
we're all blessed with these inner gifts, that God has given us. And some of us open them today, some of us
Hmm.
open them tomorrow, and some of us
Right.
never open them. And
Never open. Yeah.
my words of wisdom to them is open those gifts because you don't
Yeah.
know what's out there, what you can
Right.
for the
Yeah.
universe.
All of those packages when you return home are sitting in your room with your name on it. Just go
Right.
ahead and open them.
Yeah.
So I think good words of wisdom for everyone. Passion has to have a heartbeat.
Right.
I think I like that. It's interesting. So all of the young girls listening out there, uh, take this to heart and open your gifts. Again, that's amazing message. One more thing before I let you go would be to tell us how people can reach you because you intrigue them. Some of those things might be going on around. So
Sure.
how can people reach out to you?
Sure. I have a LinkedIn profile. You
Hmm.
can reach me, Gauthami Vemula. You can find me on colormesafe.net. You
Hmm.
can private message me on Facebook. We have a Color Me Safe page. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. So there's a variety of
There
ways
is
to.
varieties of ways people can reach you.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes, but I am there.
Okay, and I'm going to include all of those links down there with this presentation, so that way everybody has an access to that. Again, Gautami, very nice of you to take time
Thank you
and
for having
talk
me.
to all of us. So that would be something of a great information we can share with everyone. Thanks again for stopping by, and thank you everyone for watching. Do make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel of Inspiration Masters. Also, like us on Facebook so you do not miss any of these amazing interviews. And you get the links to all the people who are here. They are making a difference in our world right now. So let's go ahead and find out what they have to share with us. Again, thank you so much for watching. This is Jay at Inspiration Masters. You have a great day, and I will see you soon.